Hey everyone, and welcome back. Someone asked me, do you always wear the same blue sweater? Yep, pretty much I do. It's a shop sweater. It gets washed, once a month, whether it needs it or not. Today I'm going to be working on, I'm going to take an old fire extinguisher door that was in an old building. I don't know if it was a courthouse or an old hospital or something like that. I picked it up at an auction. The fire extinguisher label itself is not old. I'll show it to you here in just a second. So I'm going to peel that off and I'm going to etch the glass that's on it. Prior to that, I'm going to make some hairpin legs, and we're just going to see what it's going to look like with just the glass on there. And if it looks fine without etching the top of it, I'm going to just leave it alone. So let me flip the camera around here. So this is the piece I'm talking about, and like I said, the fire extinguisher label itself appears to just be kind of a latex or a vinyl sticker. So it's definitely not old. The cabinet door itself is, the hardware is pretty cool that's on it. I mean, it kind of has this routered edge to it. Pretty cool piece. It's very heavy. The glass in it, it's just really, really heavy. I don't know what it weighs, probably close to 25, 30 pounds. And it's got a good weight to it. I think it would make a great coffee table. So I've got the hairpin, the legs already cut. I cut them at 48 inches. We're shooting for a height of about 22. I'm using 1/2 inch. I thought they needed a little more beef than some of the other ones I have made in the past, and I've used 3/8 or whatever in the past. So what I do when I make hairpins, so this one's 48 inches long, make a mark at 24, and I actually just cut a little notch, because then when I heat that up and go to bend it, I can always see my notch. So what I do is I bend the V into the notch, so this will be the innermost part of my V. This will be the outside that's on the ground. You can do it the other way as well, but this will show more if it's on the outside. So I tend to bend towards the notch. So I have those all cut, and then I have cut these to go in the corners, and my hairpin pieces will go here and here. So I kind of measured, let's hope I measured correctly. It'd be pretty embarrassing to show that on film, huh? 4 inches from here to here, so I knew that I could make this distance here to here the maximum of 4 inches. And I wanted to tuck them just a little bit, so I think those are going to be about perfect. And then I'll probably drill a hole here and here to attach them to the coffee table. So let me get started on bending up a couple of those, and we'll see how it looks. And then I'll probably have to shave them a couple inches off of them, because they're probably going to be just a little bit too long. But that's what we're working on today. That's kind of what I'm going for. So you can see the notch when you get the camera to focus on it. When you bend it, the little groove that you cut kind of just disappears in there. And that's a good mark for you to follow the whole time. If you use a Sharpie marker or something like that, it just kind of, it burns it off, and you kind of lose where you're supposed to be. And then we'll just weld those, something like that, and that'll be our hairpin. Gotta do it 3 more times. We're all good to go. To get you set up here, maybe you can bore yourselves watching me make one. I have 3 made, and I'm using this one as my kind of my profile piece, stacking them up to make sure that I get the distance back here correct. So I just want them to all be the same. I don't really care what the number is, just so long as they all match and they all fit within that triangle, we are good. So basically what I'm doing is heating at my notch till it's cherry red there, and then just put my hand on one end of my hand, because the way I have my vise set up right now, and then just bending the 2 of them together. And that always works great. I've made lots of these in the past, and so that is the plan. That's what we're doing. I'll probably speed you up through this process so you don't have to bore yourself with too much time. I'm almost out of gas in the torch, so hopefully we get enough to build one more. Get a little bit of spring back on this. You gotta kind of come past it. Yeah, let's put that down and see what we've got. So the one to the right is the one I'm trying to match. Probably still cold bend this a bit, or warm bend it a bit, but I don't think we need to. That is just about perfect. Maybe just a hair. There we go. So those will get welded on there. And go on to the bottom of our table. We even had a little bit to spare. You definitely got to get that tank changed out. And while we're kind of waiting on those hairpins to dry, let's try that again. While we're waiting those hairpins to cool, we're going to work on a clock. People love clocks. I don't know why. I don't wear a watch anymore. I don't keep clocks in the house, but they love clocks. So I'm thinking of welding that to that wrench and then putting this copper salvage piece on the back side of that. But in order for me to do that, I have to drill a place to rivet that copper to. So I've got on the back side here and I punched and started drilling some holes. So let's drill those through, and then we'll wire wheel this, and probably go ahead and clean this up, the sprocket up as well. And then put the copper on, and that will be a clock ready to go. And we'll have one more thing completed. Kind of like watching paint dry. I guess I'll turn you on for part of it so you don't think I just make this stuff up. I have had people ask me where I purchase my hairpins, my hairpin legs, and I say, well, I make them. Well, I know, but where do you buy the pieces to make them? Well, I go to the local salvage yard and I buy round bar, which is what's laying down here, and I buy it in 10-foot sections, and you can get it it's just dirt cheap there. And if you go to Lowe's or Menards or any place like that, a 36-inch piece like that will cost you $10. And I probably didn't pay $10 for 2 of them. So yeah, super simple to make. You just need some scrap and a little bit of round bar. Buy hairpin legs. Buy hairpin legs. Plus I can make mine any height I want. Squeeze a little bit of oil in there, because I got to do this a few times. So this is kind of how I set things up when I'm doing these. I want to make sure that we're in line. If you can see this guy right here, I need to be in line this way. I want the point of that star to be up. We also are trying to aim for kind of in the middle where the sprocket hits. I'm a little bit heavy on the one side, but I think I'm okay with that because it's sitting pretty nicely, and I can hit 1, 2, 3 of those sprocket teeth. So I've just got it braced up with magnets, and then I click a magnetic level on the back side. Those don't last very long when you're welding with them. I burn them up pretty often. But they're cheap at Harbor Freight, so who cares? So I'm going to hit, hopefully, 1, 2, 3 teeth on that. And I think I've got it positioned about where I want it. So everything's wire wheeled, shined up really nice. I think it'll really pop once we get that copper behind there. Let me get that tacked on there and see what it looks like. So I think after I clean my grubby paw prints off of that, there's just a little swipe and a couple prints up on top here and here. I think once I get those off of there, that looks pretty good. I had these copper rivets. So those add a little bit of an accent to it. But yeah, we will oil that up as well. You know, my favorite thing to use, boiled linseed oil. I did not put a backer plate. I don't usually on the back. The rivets just kind of go their own way. Clock mechanism on the back there. So that's what those kind of look like when you put that copper behind them. They really pop. Let me kill the lights in the big lights in the room and see if you can see it any better. There we go. It's a little better. Really has a good shine to it. And copper's kind of like lights. People are just kind of drawn to it. Alright, that's another one into the done box. Put a price on that and add it to the pile. So I just kind of stuck those in front of the corners on two sides, just kind of get an idea of what it's gonna look like. I think it's gonna be pretty cool. The stool that's sitting on is 23 inches, so you know, I think it's a little bit tall, which means I'm going to have to cut these off. Again, these were 24 is what I made those. So I knew they were too tall when I made them, but you lose a little bit when you bend them down. So when in the bend, we lose just a little bit. And I wanted them all to be the same, so I just cut them at 48 and then made our hash mark at 24. So let me think on this a minute and put it at a couple different heights and kind of figure out what we're going to do and how we're going to cut those off and attach them. But I think that's going to look pretty good with those. I think that's the right diameter of leg, and get those welded on once I figure out some height. So I kind of did a stare and compare, and I think I'm going to lop off whatever that is with the Sharpie marker there. Didn't lose a whole lot. So yeah, about 3 inches. I'm trying to make these 21 because then we're going to have the inch roughly off of that. Put us at 22. I think that'll be about right. So let me cut one of those, and then I'll just use the other ones to stack up next to it so I don't have to mark all of them. So we'll get one cut, and then we'll cut the others to match that one that I've cut. Alright, I got those table legs all mocked up, and we got our level on there, and we're looking pretty good there. Like I said, I probably will drill, focus, probably will drill there, and at the point to attach it to the table. So let me get that on there. It's funny because I cut those off. It's kind of the whole, my dad's saying, cut it off twice and it's still too short. They look short. I hope it looks okay. I have enough steel to make another set if it doesn't. So we'll get all of these welded up and put them on there and kind of see what we've got. I clamped those around, and we're just gonna flip this table up. I hope I can flip it up without knocking it off. See if we can get it to stand up on its own 4 feet and see what we're dealing with on height. I'll probably have to carry it inside and set it next to the couch and kind of get an idea of what we're looking at. But it don't look so bad now that they're on there, but when I first cut them off, I'm like, man, those suckers are short. Let's see what we got. I think that's about right. Let me shut that lamp off behind there and get rid of that glare. It hits the, just under the arm of that couch, which is kind of what I was shooting for. I usually do make all the little tables I make about 22, 23 inches. I think that's pretty good. Yeah, that's pretty good. Let me go get a tape measure and see where we're hitting that. I think that's about right. I didn't weld those up all the way. I just kind of tacked them on there. I wasn't sure. And I want to be able to reuse my triangle pieces if it wasn't right. So I'll have to go back and weld them if it's good. So we are just shy of 22, and I aim usually for 22, so I'm gonna call that good. I think if I was sitting on the couch and wanted to set a cup of coffee or something on there, I think it'd be pretty good. Put a lamp on it, be about the right height if you set a table lamp on there, desk lamp on there. Yep, let's do it. Let's get those suckers welded and drilled out, and we can put this one in the done pile. Well, unless I decide to etch the glass. Then we'll be done. I know. There's probably going to be a bunch of people that say, leave the fire extinguisher thing on there. But it just doesn't go with the door. It's not old. I mean, I could maybe copy that and etch that into it, but it just doesn't go with it. I mean, it's kind of cool, but if it was an old label, I would leave it. But because it's not, I'm going to do away with it. I'm rambling now. Let me get those welded up and on there. Alright, those are all on there. I think I'm going to step down one more depth. You know, I was using one of those stepper bits like this. Step down one more depth on the countersink area, the countersunk portion of those, so that I can get that screw head all the way down in there. But I'm pretty happy with how that looks. Looks pretty good. The legs have to come off anyway because I have to spray paint them, and it's just not warm enough right now to do it. But let's flip it over and see how unlevel it is. It actually feels pretty good. It's steady. On these side hinges, I took the center, take the camera out of the stand, hang on just a second. There were 3 screws in the hinge that's on the door itself, 1, 2, 3. Took the center one out, and the other hinge that's flapping around, put that center one through there. That way I could leave those hinges on. Kind of add some interest to it. And then I left this little turnbuckle thing on as well. Yeah, that looks pretty good. So we'll paint those legs. I'm just going to paint them black. I think that will be just fine. So let's get that fire extinguisher sticker or whatever that is off of there. And make some kind of stencil or buy some kind of stencil and see if we can etch something on there. And I kind of had in mind one of those compass designs where it's, you know, NSWE, and it has the little, for lack of a better term, geometric shapes to it. But let's try and peel. I got that blade kind of started under there and see how big of a challenge that's going to be. Got those all kind of steel wooled, cleaned all the rust spots off. Just thought I'd point out, I was talking about when you cut a slit in it, you really can't see it. There's 2 of them, and both of those have slits cut in them. You can kind of see it on this one. But once I get some paint on it, I don't even see it. Well, I managed to find a couple of stencils that I kind of like. I don't like the font on the compass. I think the font's a little too scrolly script for what we're looking for. I had initially said I was going to etch that glass, but I think I am just going to paint it on the bottom side, and then if someone decides they don't like what I put on there, they can scrape that off with a razor blade and change it. Etching is permanent. So let's get the back side of that cleaned off and see which of these two stencils looks the best on there. This one's a little bit bigger. They're both 12 by 12, but the circle on this one obviously doesn't go all the way out. The 12 is counting the letters. So let's get those on there and see which one looks the best. And I can always change the font. So I think probably it needs to be a little bit bigger than that. But for our purposes, we're just going to go with it just because we are fresh out of time, folks. Like I said, I'm trying to get this done for an art show I have coming up the first weekend in April. Let me get that one open up and we'll take a look at it. Definitely think I like the compass better than this one. I really like this one, but I tend to not want things to be too girly. And I think that's kind of girly. So maybe let's go with that and see what I can come up with for some different lettering. Let me go look in my stencil pile and see what I can come up with. I am liking that font much better. So it's going to be that versus that. I think that's a lot better. You think they'd take it back now if I wanted to return it? It's like anything I buy. Gotta modify it. Can't just accept it for the way it is. Yeah, it looks better. I like that a lot better. Alright. Let's see how we can make that look. Alright, pulled off the shields. Needs a little bit of cleanup, but not too bad. Pretty happy with that. There's a couple little areas I'll have to work on cleaning up. I'll show you here. Right in here I'll have to take a razor blade. The defined edge is there. Can't really see it, but yeah, that worked pretty well. You ready to see it? You ready? You ready? You ready? You ready? I think that turned out pretty nice. Cleaned all the glass, and I've gone around and oiled all of the wood. But I am pretty happy with how that turned out. Glass had a little bit of stain around the edges, so I razor bladed that as well. But that, I would say, is a success. I'm happy I went with this with the compass. I think that looks the best. And again, it's on the back side, so shouldn't get scratched off. All right, everyone, we're gonna call this one a wrap. Oh wait, hold on one second. And now it's a wrap. Time is ticking away, and I've got to finish a few more projects. So we're going to leave this one here. The next time you see this, it'll be set up in the booth in Elnora. And hopefully, the next video that's after this one will be the drive down there. And you'll get to watch that as well. Thanks everyone for commenting and subscribing. Don't forget to like, and we will see you on the next one.